Hey, it's me. It's Mr. B.O.B., the People's Black Belt, the man you came to listen and see. Here with Mr. Mac and Cheese. How are you, Mr. Mac and Cheese?
Deuces.
Fantastic. So, today's episode is going to be, are you too old to train?
I don't know, I might be. I might be, I'm 52. I guess we're gonna find out.
Well, yeah, we did a little rolling jiu-jitsu on Tuesday. It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun until I woke up the next morning. But, I mean, all things considered, I wasn't injured in any way. I was just muscle soreness because I haven't rolled
Yeah,
in
like
18
you sent me
months.
that text, it's just muscles, muscles you normally don't use that you have to use, like putting your foot to the ground, shrimping out, like you're not accustomed to doing that. It's not something you do every day.
No, it's not. It's definitely a different form of conditioning.
Yes. So, with that being said, our points that we're going to be talking about. Our bullet points are choosing the right art, be our first one. Number 2 will be stretching and warm up.
Very important.
Number 3, which I think is super important too, listen to your body.
Absolutely.
And 4, motivations on training.
Yeah.
So, let's start off, you know what, let's start off you talking about how you had taken some time off and you're back into the art. Like you said, you're in your 50s. You took off, what, 6 years, you said?
It was about 6, yeah.
About 6
Almost,
years.
almost 6 to the month.
Well, to the point where you actually, you moved, we moved the school.
And then COVID just blew everything up.
Yeah, and I was teaching online. It was just,
Yeah, so, all right, so it's a good place to start, but I mean, before I get into that, my story, and we get into any further, I think it's important to note, for anybody
oh,
listening,
I forgot about this, yes.
Mr. Bob and I are not healthcare professionals.
We play them on TV.
We play them on
sometimes.
TV sometimes. We are, we're martial artists, some a little bit more well-trained than others.
Been 30 years.
But we're not medical professionals, and if anybody listening to this is, trying to figure out if this is a good podcast to help them figure out if they're ready to start training at any age, kid, young adult, all the way up to and including, 52 and beyond. Check with your healthcare professionals, check with your doctor, your family doctor, make sure that you are able to train. You could have an underlying heart condition you don't know about. And
Yeah.
the worst place, I think, to find out that you have one of those is when you're training.
Oh, yeah.
I'd rather find out in the doctor's office so they can tell me, you need to be on this medicine, and then, yeah, you can go train. It's because exercise is important. The doctor's gonna want you to exercise.
Mhm.
But, you get into other things, like me, I don't have any serious underlying conditions, and, before I did start training again, I had brought it up to my doctor. Hey, listen, I'm gonna start training again. And he's like, oh, you're considering your health problems, you're fine. You can train. You need to continue. I have high blood pressure. I have type 2 diabetes. He says, as long as your sugar's under control and you're taking your medication for your blood pressure, no problem with you doing any physical activity.
Mhm.
My only limiting factor is I have arthritis in my knees.
Mhm.
Again, it's not a life-threatening condition, but you know as well as anybody, some nights I limp out of here.
Yeah.
So that said, check with your doctor before you begin any kind of workout program, exercise, anything. It's like, I would hate to find out that somebody just jumped into training and they found out the hard way that they had something life-threatening going on.
Yeah, and that actually leads us into our first bullet point, choosing the right art. Now, not every doctor may know the difference between jiu-jitsu and kempo and jiatsu jitsu or anything like that. They may not know the difference, but if you do your due diligence, you do your research, and you feel as though, all right, I want to do judo. In judo, there's a lot of like tripping, falling. You have to learn how to fall. Throwing. You know what I mean? So
That's
if you bring up to the doctor, listen, there's going to be a lot of throwing, and he might be and falling. He might say, I don't know.
we should get an MRI of your back first and see if you got anything degenerative going on with your discs
Yes.
or whatever, because that definitely would not be the art for you.
Whereas like the art we do, jiatsu jitsu, Are there takedowns? Yes, but it's not until you get higher in rank.
And you're certainly not. They're not judo level take. I say judo take. I mean,
Yeah,
I've had the pleasure or misfortune of training with somebody that does judo, and I've been thrown around a little bit. You know, those throws, even at a beginner level, are pretty rough on the body.
whereas we do a lot of hands.
Yeah.
We kick, but we don't do as much kicking as, like, say, Taekwondo.
Right.
Whereas we do a lot of hand stuff, blocking, redirecting. And if you, like, say, all right, Doc, these are three I want to try. Taekwondo, Judo, or ours, Jiangxi Jishu. And you explain to him what each of them do.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a good point to note that if you're thinking about something that you want to train in, if you can't explain it to your doctor, then you're probably not ready to train it.
Yeah, you should be able to explain it to him, and he might say, well, you know, you have like, for example, for yourself, you have a bad knee.
Taekwondo is off the books
Yeah,
for me.
it's all kicking.
It's all kicking.
And he might say, all right, a credible doctor would say, Taekwondo, that's a lot of kicking. I don't know if you should do that. Judo, judo is a lot of throwing, a lot of bouncing. There's a good chance you could get injured regularly,
Mm-hmm.
but if you have an arthritic knee, you might want to take that off the table. All right, Jiangxi Jishu, it's a lot of hands, or even American Kempo, a lot of hand stuff. Zhenwan Kempo, a lot of hands. You know what I mean? It's more hands than feet, so
And
it would be better suited.
I can attest that I walk out of here limping sometimes, but and listen, if I walk a mile or two, I'm limping. So I mean, it's just the nature of the beast with my arthritis. I have to get it taken care of. Again, it's not life-threatening, so it's not been real high on the list of priorities because at this moment in time, I can live with it.
Mhm.
I can live with the level of pain. I know what my limits are, and that kind of leads us into listen to your body too.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I know where my limits are. I know when that knee's gonna hurt. I know when I do something to it, even if it's not gonna hurt now, I know it's gonna hurt tomorrow. Like, so, my body does tell me things, and I've gotten pretty good at listening to it. And you really should know what your body's limitations are.
Well, for example, on Tuesday night earlier this week, I don't know how I did it, but I strained my Achilles. And I love teaching, so I was in there teaching, but for the older kids, I expect more of them, and I like them doing more advanced stuff. I knew what I wanted them to do, but what I had one of my assistants who helps me out in all the classes, Abby. I said to Abby, all right, this is what I want to work on tonight. Can you demonstrate it for us? My Achilles isn't feeling well, and I can't pull this off. Can you do it? And she said, yeah, no problem. She's a young, spry kid who can kick as high as the eye.
And she knows the techniques
Yeah,
too.
so I had her demonstrate it, and while everyone was doing it, in addition, I was keeping an eye on everybody, but in addition to doing it, she was keeping an eye on everybody, because she knew better than everybody what I expected,
Yeah.
because she should. But, like, I knew, I was listening to my body, I can't do this basic tonight, I cannot do it. I'm gonna have one of my assistants do it. So that's just something as an instructor, like, normally I can do it, but I'm like, like, it still bothers me, it's a couple days later.
Yeah, you listen to your body. I mean, it's, you know, as much as you want to teach, that's why you have systems, because, you know, there just could be problems. You could catch the flu, you could tweak your Achilles. So it's easy, you know, sometimes if you have a qualified assistant that can just step in and, you know, show the moves. And maybe sometimes it's probably good for you to take a step back and watch everything.
That's why
Sometimes you don't get a shot of that whole picture.
it's funny. For example, tonight, normally when I teach, especially 3, 4, and 5-year-old class, I like joking around and being funny, and the kids listen to me. But I had one of my assistants. She is 8. She did the warm-ups and she did the basic in class tonight, and the kids listen better to her. I don't know if it's because, like, I was walking around in the back, I was sitting down with the kids, make sure they're
'Cause you're
stretching
old.
correctly.
Because you're old, man. You can't relate.
But she did a fantastic job. Like, she went through everything. She knows how to do the warm-ups. She knew exactly what I wanted for the basic, and the kids perfectly did it for her. And I'm like, so I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm super proud of her
I
that
was
she
gonna say,
did.
there had to be a
But
level
then
of pride.
also my ass, I'm like, man, why don't they behave like that for me? But that's getting off the
Yeah,
off
that's
track.
a little tangent, but I mean, it did, it's listen to the body. You listen to your body and you found something good. You ended up finding something good out about it, so that's part of it.
But one thing that I recommend with listening to your body, what might help is stretching. I'm not saying wake up every morning and stretch for 4 or 5 hours or do anything Jean-Claude Van Damme wise, or just, I like to, when I wake up in the morning, I do a full body stretch, but it lasts 7 minutes. That's it. And I get my hips going, I get my legs going, I get my upper body, I just loosen myself up. I just do 7 minutes every morning.
It's funny, I do the same thing, even now I'm not actively working out, I'm getting ready to get back into doing an actual routine. But I still, 18 months since my last jujitsu class, and I still do that same warm-up that we did for jujitsu. Little shrimp drills, some leg circles to open up the hips, and some of the stretching that we did every morning. And I think some days it's the only reason I can walk straight. But I do those every morning religiously. Even when I'm not working out, I get up, I go down in the basement, I get on the mat, I turn on the news, and I just sit there and do those simple stretches for a little while. And I stare at my weights, and then I walk back upstairs to have breakfast.
That's what I wake my boys up, and then once we get everything situated, I get them their clothes, they get dressed. We go downstairs. If they get all their stuff done at a good time, they can sit downstairs and they can watch TV.
Mhm.
And while they're watching TV, I'm usually eating breakfast on the floor, and I'm stretching while I'm eating.
Yeah, that's
and
great. It's a great
hanging out with
thing.
them.
You used to say, again, we're getting kind of off on a tangent, but you just reminded me of something you used to tell the kids in Goals, Philly, when Taylor and Maddie trained there. You used to say that you can, when you're watching TV, when a commercial gets on, get up and stretch, or get up and do some push-ups or sit-ups. Or
Kids don't
something.
know what commercials are anymore.
Yeah, but now everything's recorded, it's on DVR. I think you caught the tail end of that, but I do that sometimes. Because I'll watch on YouTube or something. It's got like the goofy little 2-minute commercials or whatever, and I take that as an opportunity to do some stretching. Like especially like I work from home, and I'll leave like the news or something on in the background. I get up when the commercial hits. I'll get up and I just stretch. Even if I stand up and stretch over my head and just like lengthen my body, just because I sit in a chair all day, my back starts to hurt, my legs hurt from sitting there. So it's just good to get up. Anyway, I would think, getting back to the am I too old to train and what arts are good to train in, I would think, we were talking about some of that stuff. I don't know that this is the kind of thing that everybody would be looking for necessarily, but, a good one, and I've actually done some of this just off of YouTube, not any real trainers, but some Tai Chi is good, because you get a lot of the stretching and stretching benefits in that. I don't know that I necessarily personally believe in some of the metaphysical stuff that goes along with Tai Chi, but there's certainly a lot to be said for some of the movements. And if I had the time, I would probably, time and money, I would probably seek out a Tai Chi class. Even if I went one day a week just to do it, it would be fun to do.
That's fun. One of my old instructors, Andy. I used to talk to him, actually Andy and Don, when I first started back in the early 90s. I would sit, Don always did Tai Chi. So I said to Andy, I was like, Don's always doing Tai Chi, and dude, he's in great shape. He said, you know what he does? I was like, what? He said, he does his katas super slow. He does his techniques super slow. He's like, he doesn't do anything specific. He'll do one of his Kempo techniques, and he'll just do it slow.
That's a great idea. I didn't even think about that.
He's like, but what he'll do is he'll exaggerate the stances. He'll lean into it just a little bit more. He's like, that's all he's doing.
Maybe do a little isometric, like kind of create your own resistance.
Yeah, that's all. I was like, really?
That's awesome.
I always remembered that.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good one. If you've got a lot of mobility problems, that might not be a bad martial art. I mean, if you're motivated to defend yourself, or you want to be a bouncer or something, you're just having a career change at midlife in and you wanna take up a martial art for bouncing or being a security guy, probably not gonna do it for you, but if you've got those kind of body problems that you need an art like Tai Chi, you're not doing that
There's some of the
anyway.
local YMCA's, at least down here, that offer it for free.
Yeah.
On Sundays, you can go in and just do a Tai Chi class, nice and easy. I don't know if they do adhere to a curriculum.
Right.
Or they just kind of do what Andy and Don used to do, but
Still, it would give you the benefit of what you're trying to seek out if you're just trying to increase your mobility and maybe that leads to being able to get into something else.
the big thing that I like about it is you're getting up and moving. That's one thing I like about having an Apple Watch or a Fitbit. It'll ring your watch saying, listen, you haven't stood up in the past like 45 minutes.
I actually have an app, and I haven't done this in a while. I did it when I was doing 100 push-ups a day for 100 days, and for the most part, I got there. There were a couple days I couldn't get them all out, but I got pretty close. But I had put an app on my phone to remind me to do push-ups every half hour.
Let's
So
get
every half hour, I would just drop wherever I was. Like if I was home, the app would alert me. I would drop and do 10 or 20 or whatever I could handle at the moment, and until I got to 100, and then I would shut the app off. Just, you didn't have, nobody said you had to do the whole 100 in one setting.
Correct, yeah. When I would do something like that, whether it be the squats, where I would just do 10,
Mhm.
maybe 15. I would get them all done.
Nobody
But-
said, and that's another thing too. Like at my age, at any age, if you're not physically capable, when you were 20, you could do 100 push-ups in a straight shot, and you're 52 and you can't. All right, well, try to squeeze out 100 a day, but break them up into sets of 10.
Mhm.
I mean, who can't do 10 push-ups?
Or even if you can't, do them on your knees.
Yeah, cheat. You listen, cheat until you get the form and you get the strength up, and then you move into. There's a guy I follow on Instagram, YouTube. It's called Hybrid Calisthenics. This guy does all body weight stuff. And one of the things he did, and this is what I had to get myself back into shape doing push-ups, was doing wall push-ups.
Mm-hmm.
And then I graduated down to 2 chairs.
Mhm.
And then I never had to do the knees, but then I was finally able to get down into a traditional push-up stance on the floor and able to do that. But when I first started doing them, I could get 10 out, but it was painful. It was hard to get 10 out. So after easing into it that way, I was able to get 10 out comfortably.
Just like with your push-up, just with martial arts, it's you're
Ease
getting
into it.
yourself moving. That's big, but you see,
When did I start back here? May? Training with you again? I think it was May.
yeah,
Mid-May?
yes.
All right, so I'll be honest with you. I'm right now getting to a point where even though I'm limping out of here because of my knee, in the beginning, like I was sore and I was, ill prepared to start. Not medically, just
Yeah.
hadn't done it in 6 years, and the body is not as kind to you
Mm-hmm.
when you get to 52 as it was even at 42 when I was training with you before. 42, I still felt like I was 22.
Yeah.
52, I feel like I'm 82. But I mean, I'm just now getting to the point, 5 months in, 5.5 months, or not 5, 3.5 months in, where it's not killing me to do it.
And that's gonna come up where if you're not accustomed to moving, and all of a sudden, even if it's just once a week, you come in and do a martial arts class, whether it's here, there, or anywhere, it's gonna hurt. It's
At least in the
going
beginning, it is, yeah.
to hurt.
That's one thing to tell people. Anybody listening to this, if you do decide to start and you're a little bit further along in the years, initially it's going to take you longer to get used to it than you would probably expect it would.
Yeah, and then that's the one thing that may hold someone back from training. I trained twice and I can't even move anymore.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
not a reason to stop.
Yeah, okay. Just instead of like say,
Maybe it's a reason to just take it a little easier in your next
or
class.
say if you're doing it twice a week, all right, well,
Do it
instead
once
of
a
doing
week.
it, yeah, do it twice, twice one time, or twice, one, two. Just
Ease into it.
if you continue with something and you get accustomed to it and then you like it, I think they said if you do something for 21 days, that your body becomes accustomed to doing it. Whereas maybe I don't know if, obviously you're not gonna train 21 days in a row.
Right.
But if you get up into like 10 times,
If you
15
get into a
classes,
rhythm where you've done
20
21 classes,
yeah, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, you may not be where you wanna be or you thought you would be, but now it's becoming a habit.
Right.
All right, I'm going
It's-
2
it's-
days a week, I'm
it's
going
part
1
of
day a week.
your daily routine, or it's part of your, if you train twice a week, it's part of your weekly routine. It becomes something you do, like going food shopping.
Yeah. Like I go to, what do you do during the week? Ah, well, I go food shopping, I do this, I do karate. It's gonna become part of the
It's one of those-
conversation.
it's one of those
gonna
things you
become
do,
part of
yeah.
your life.
Yeah, no, so, I mean, I would encourage people at any age, if you're physically able to, you know, it's probably good for you to do something. Especially you get to, you know, maybe somebody like me, my kids are now adults, and, you know, I started training initially because it was something that I wanted to do with them.
Yeah,
Even though I didn't participate in the same class they did, it was something that we shared. It
Mhm.
was something the three of us did, and it was our bond, it was our thing that we did together. And that was my initial reason to do it. I trained when I was younger, and, you know, probably a good 20 years off from that training, so I might as well have forgotten everything I knew. But the act of doing it with them got me to the point where it then became something that I was doing for me too. I was enjoying it for me. I was enjoying the act of training, and it's you know, I for various reasons I had to stop back in 2017. So I was really glad to get back to it when I did, because
I think
I think if I waited any longer, my body might have rejected it a little bit more.
the one thing that you could probably attest to is one of the things we were talking about, motivations. You end up becoming friends with a lot of guys at school,
Yeah.
you know, and,
Yeah.
and then the camaraderie, and then,
I had one of them follow me to Maple Shade.
yeah. And then, you know, you get into the point where, especially with the guys, you start breaking each other's jobs and
Yeah.
stuff like, and then it becomes like a little family.
Yeah, certainly met new friends. For people that had I not done that, I would have not met.
Yeah. So it's one of the advantages, or doing it with your kids, not so much in the same class, but you having that bond with
Mhm.
Taylor and Maddie. All three you did martial arts.
Yeah.
Just, and like, I have my 2 boys to come and do martial arts. My youngest comes in and helps me teach.
Love watching that kid run around here. He's awesome.
And it's just something that, yes, I'm the school owner, but it's just something me and my boys have. Also, I've heard people say it where they'll be like, it gets me out of the house. Gets me out of the house, you know what I mean? It's my time. Where it's like, dude, I can get out of the house for an hour or once a week, whether it's just coming in to train or just coming and training and bull crapping afterwards.
Yeah.
It's like my
Yeah,
time,
no,
me time.
100%. No, it's I don't necessarily. I mean, that's part of it for me. Like, I do enjoy some of the me time, but I do get my me time. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I do get that. So that's not like a primary motivator for me.
It's important to have.
I think to when I came back to it, the motivation was obviously different, because I wasn't doing this to have a bond with my kids anymore. When I came back this time, it was like I wanted to finish what I started.
Mhm.
You know, I'm taking maybe one of the world's longest paths from white belt to black belt. Especially if you consider I started training when I was 16 in Shotokan. I got as far as green belt in that, and you know, then by the time I got to my senior year of high school, work and girls became a little bit more important than martial arts. So one of the three had to give, and I wanted
Yeah.
money and I wanted girls, so I was like, well, yeah, I'll just stop training. I'm like, I ain't going nowhere with this. And then again, I couldn't even tell you what the motivator was then. You know, it's not like I was somebody that was picked on. I mean, I had people that I didn't get along with, but I wasn't like picked on. I wasn't bullied. I didn't feel like I needed to defend myself. I think I just did it because it was a thing to do,
Mhm.
and that's probably why I didn't finish it. This time around, I picked it because, you know, it was something that I did with my kids,
Yeah.
and that was a good bond. And then it grew into me now having a love of training. Like, I want my black belt. You know, when I took the time off, I trained a little bit in BJJ at a school that was close to me in Jersey. I did Krav Maga for a little bit. I mean, again, these are all arts that I really feel like I'm going to get back to those someday. But then I thought, I'm all over the place. I still have more than half the journey done, here,
Yeah,
I gotta finish it. I've gotta finish that first before I do anything else. I wanna finish that out, get my black belt, and then, you know, I've grown to really, really love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And as much as I liked Krav Maga, I think I love BJJ just a little bit more. So when I get my black belt here, I'm definitely going back to
I
that.
said that comes back to choosing the right art.
Yeah. I mean, it's the kind of thing, like, I wish I had money because I would literally train every day. If I could afford it and I didn't have to work, I would probably train every day. I would, you know, have a couple days of BJJ, a couple days of Krav Maga, a couple days of this, and maybe just on the weekends go to a boxing gym and try to get some hand speed going.
Mhm.
But, you know, like, I have to work for a living, so
No, I hear you, I hear you.
forget all that.
I wish I could do it sometimes, but you know, family. Sawyer loves lacrosse. Kendrick loves theater. I
Yeah.
gotta make sure I take care of that
And
too.
you gotta get them to theater and
Yeah,
lacrosse,
yeah,
so.
yeah. But yeah, listening to your body as far as if you feel as though you're having any nagging injuries, small stuff like that, take care of it, especially if you're a little bit older. Take care of that. Don't, once you get in, don't go egotastic on everything. I gotta do it. I said I would do it.
Yeah,
If you're not feeling well, take a day off.
I'll
Take
be
a
honest
week
with
off.
you,
Take 2 weeks off.
my ego does sometimes shout louder than my body.
Mhm.
I'll be honest with you. If it's a little bit of a nagging pain, and I probably should just take a night off, my ego is usually like, nah, get in there, you punk, get in there and
Yeah.
do it. No pain, no gain. Like, that's like the worst saying that ever happened.
Yeah.
Is no pain, no gain. No pain. Pain is your body telling you to stop, you fool. But it's a little hard for me. I live in a glass house. I'm not going to throw a stone. I know that my ego gets in the way of stopping me sometimes.
Well, yeah, that's listening to your body and then stretching and warming up, just like I do it in the morning. We have some of the adult students will stretch before they start class. Because a lot of times we do, depending on who's in class, we might do a long warm-up, we might do a short warm-up. So some of the adults will stretch before they come into class.
Yeah.
Just so they're a little bit more limber, the blood's flowing, they're loose. And it's right, like I said, you do it daily, I do it daily. It's not something that,
Most people don't do that.
it's not fun, but it's something that I know as I get older, I'm going to have to do. So I might as well even start, bite the bullet now and just do it, start doing
I
it.
don't know if I ever told you this. You know, well, you know, I used to be a machinist. I worked a blue collar job before I got my cushy white collar office job. And one of the places, in fact, it was the last place I worked before I switched careers. They used to make us do we had a break in the morning, lunch, and then a break in the afternoon. And before the morning break and the afternoon break, we would, if it was nice out, we would go outside. If it wasn't, we would be inside. But they would come out, and different people throughout the shop would lead like stretching exercises. And I used to hide from those. I used to be like, I'm not doing that.
They used to
Like,
talk
that
about
is
that at
so,
mine.
that is
my-
so goofy. I'm not gonna do it. By the
my
time I
shop
left,
job.
by the time I left there, I looked forward to it. A, because you got an extra 5 minutes for your break. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know why I thought it. I was like, you get an extra 5 minutes. Okay, if you're gonna, you know, give you 5 minutes to do this. But it actually did. It turned out it was beneficial. They were doing the right thing, and I was being a douche for not for not
No,
for
I
not
hear
doing it. You know, and I was like, people were following me, and I'm like, oh God, like I'm like setting a bad example. But my third job in IT, I actually went to HR and convinced them to have people do that. And unfortunately, I convinced them about a month before I left that job, but I did find out they put the policy into place after I left. So I'm kind of glad. I'm hoping that it benefits some people, and then there are people that I didn't like there. I hope it annoys.
Well, if you're sitting at a desk almost all day long,
I do. I'm telling you, I get up and
just
I
getting
stretch
up and moving around.
several times a day.
Stretching. The older you get, the more sedentary you become sometimes.
I used to take the dogs out and sit on my patio. Now when I take the dogs out, I stand on the patio and watch them. Just
Small.
because I shouldn't be sitting that much.
Something small. Something small.
But the ego's a good one. One thing that, you know, I think we weren't going to talk about the cons, but I'm looking at the one below that, and it's kind of like staring me in the face. And this is probably one most people might stop people from training or getting back into training or starting training is like a fear of injury. I mean, if you're a relatively healthy person, you're just as likely to get injured trying to run for the bus as you are taking a martial arts class. So if anybody's listening and their biggest fear is, I don't know if I should do it because I don't want to get hurt. Well, you get hurt doing anything. You can fall down your steps at home and get hurt.
We're on the second floor. You could fall. You could fall going up the steps.
You could fall. Well, if you're my wife, you fall going up the steps, or if you're my daughters, you fall going up the steps. But yeah, no, you shouldn't let a fear. I don't think you should let a fear of anything stop you from doing something that you want to do, martial arts or otherwise. A fear of failure, a fear of injury, is irrational. Like, be afraid of things that you should be afraid of, but failure and injury. You know, maybe you should be a little afraid of injury, but if you're a relatively healthy person, taking martial arts,
And if you're
probably not going to get hurt.
if you're taking martial arts, the healthier you'll be.
Yep.
If we're doing a lot more stretching, so we're more limber.
Yep.
You mean?
Yeah, and in fact, I would advocate that you'd be less likely to be injured if you were studying a martial art.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And man, I just wanted to touch again on motivations for training. When I was younger, my motivation was I just wanted to be awesome. I wanted to be an awesome martial artist. Now being 46, my motivation is I've always loved teaching kids. My motivation is teaching kids how to defend themselves, teaching kids it's okay to have fun in martial arts.
Sure. Doesn't
Now-
have to be rigid.
Yeah, they just have fun and then come in, we'll teach you some punches and kicks. In addition, we'll make you laugh. I tell the jokes for the parents, tell the jokes for the kids, but my motivation is just having fun teaching martial arts.
I gotta tell you, just follow up on that real quick. I always understood that when you said it, but until you let me in and allowed me to help train the kids in sparring, I understood what you meant when you said that. Now I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. I love helping teach whatever knowledge I have that I can help them to defend themselves or win at a tournament.
you watch it in sparring, like I
It's
was
so
watching
much.
it tonight.
It's so much fun.
And you were going over your drill for the night. And one thing you're doing now is you're highlighting the kids who completed the drill
Yes.
in real time.
In real time. And we had a couple do it tonight. And I was like, I felt kind of like proud. I was like, wow, they did it. I was like, wanted to pat myself on the back, like, yeah, they did it. All right,
I
great.
love that's an awesome feeling. I love that.
And it's just fun to watch their progress. Watch some of them get out of their shells. Like again, like I said, I always understood what you meant when you said that. Now I kind of get it.
Yeah.
I get that feeling, like what that means to you. And I'm only like touching the tip of the iceberg. You know what I mean? Like I have a handful of kids a couple times a week,
Yeah.
and you have them all a couple times. You know, like Tuesdays and Thursdays and then Saturday, you know, when you do practices and stuff for tournaments, you get to see it all. You get to feel it all, and it's you know, I can only imagine what that feels like. Now I get it. I wish more people, if they had the opportunity, if you've been a martial artist for any period of time, if you had the opportunity to help to work with kids and help teach them, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. It's like the warm feeling you get from seeing them do better, from seeing them progress from where they were to where they are, and looking into the future and seeing where they can be.
Whether it's your daughter Taylor, who's still fantastic, I still have her come and do classes, or Peter.
Oh my
Peter-
God, that dude's become a rock star for you.
He was never one of the top skilled students, but he was consistent. He was always there. Every class. Now he's running one of my schools, and if everything works out well, he's going to be running 2 more. So he's going to be running 3 schools, him and his mom, on their own. He went from being just a kid who came in because his sister was taking classes to a kid who's
Now,
Yeah, like I watched him last time I told you, last time I was at the Philly location, and I knew he was good with kids, but once I saw how he interacted with the kids before and after class, I was like, that's what I was always looking for. He's got it.
Mm-hmm.
He's got it.
100%.
And that's the thing, that's a motivation.
And I've seen, I've been to the Philly school when he's teaching. He's fantastic with them.
One of my motivations was never to have multiple schools, but Peter was in a situation, he asked if he could have his own location. I was like, oh, sure. And he is killing it. It's motivation, like to see, watch my students.
Yeah, and
do
I've
better
known,
than
listen,
me.
at this point, I've known Peter most of his life too. And just watching him grow into this, it's like,
Yeah.
it's like watching one of my own kids grow, like watching Taylor and Maddie grow. You know, they grew with him. He was, you know, I think he's like a year younger than them or a year and a half younger than them. And just watching the man he is now grown into.
Yeah.
It's funny, like, I don't even look at him as a kid. He's not a kid anymore. He's a man.
Yeah, I know.
He's a man, and he's handling man business. He's running the schools. He's doing fantastic at it. And it's like one of the things like that's not on any of our lists here, but that's the kind of thing that martial arts can lead to. You know, it's one of the things. You know, it's kind of goofy to say. It almost seems corny, but you know, it teaches leadership. It
Yeah.
teaches confidence. It teaches the skills you need to be an adult.
Yeah, and he's a fantastic.
And maybe there's some adults who should take martial arts because they never actually got the skills they need to be an adult. So I don't know. It's I to answer the question of this podcast, as far as I'm concerned, if you're relatively healthy and your doctor says it's okay, you're never too old to start training. You can start training at 80 if your doctor's okay with it.
100%.
You know, like,
If you're willing, there's always be a way.
you know, I mean, the motivation could be, hey, I'm 60 and this is on my bucket list.
Yeah.
You know, the motivation could be, I'm 13 and I'm getting picked on in school, like, and everything in between. I think your motivation has to be something that you can focus on now.
Mhm.
Like I said, I started training at 16 because it was, or actually 15. It was because it was just something to do. I was bored, found out the rec near me was doing classes. I was like, and one of my friends was going there. I was like, okay, why not?
Yeah,
But because my motivation was, okay, why not? It became very easy when when other things crept into my life that I wanted to do. It was okay for me to say, I can quit. Why not?
Mhm.
You know, like I just want to do something else now.
Yeah.
I didn't have a clear, focused goal to, you know, pardon the pun, to get into to martial arts. So it was easy. I didn't have that clear, focused goal to keep me in it. So when I got to a point where there were other things I wanted to do, that became the odd man out. I was like, all right, fine, whatever, you know. And I think back sometimes, like, had I kept training, would have I developed the love that I have for it now? And would have I trained in a billion different martial arts? I don't know, maybe. I don't play the what if game, but I do wonder sometimes.
I like the path you're on now because I'm on almost like a similar path where I'm training with my kids now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool.
That's
I really
fun.
like it. Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun being part of that with them. And you know, I remember when Kendrick was first born, and he used to do the IAS with the demo team, and I was like, that kid's all right. He's gonna be something special someday. He's got a personality. He's like 6 months old, 7 months
Yeah.
old, and the girls would do the and he'd back in the room, you hear but yeah, now to see them both, I've seen them both compete. I've seen them both in class. It's fun. I'm glad that you get that too.
That's cool.
Because it used to be really fun watching them, and then you know when they got black belts, they obviously had to get promoted into the adult class. So I did get some overlap. I did get some overlap to where I did train with them. So I did have fun with that.
That's cool.
Awesome.
So on that note,
Yeah.
we'll end this episode, but like Mac and Cheese said in the beginning, always consult a doctor before doing any kind of exercises, good, bad, or indifferent. But we're going to leave you on that note. Thank you, Mr. Mac and Cheese. It was a fantastic episode.
It was.
And next episode, you know what I think we're going to do? Let's do martial arts movies. I'm going to put 3 categories I want: classic, cartoon, and current. I want that to be our last, and if you wanna add to it,
We're gonna have to define classic, because I'm a touch older than you are. So classic for me is where we're talking about the old Kung Fu Theater
Oh,
on
I still
channel
love watching that.
on channel 48. So like that's to me is classic, and I think classics that might be broken up, like maybe errors.
okay. that
Maybe
sounds
maybe
good
we'll
to me.
do it like over errors, because there's certainly, you know, all that those dubbed kung fu movies. Like that's where it started for me. It's a love watching them. So I've got some of those in mind that I would talk about. I definitely have some anime in mind that I would love to talk about, and it's certainly like I think the '80s were big
Mhm.
for like martial arts movies. So I feel like we might spend a little bit of time in the
Best of
'80s.
the best,
Yeah.
Karate Kid.
The Perfect Weapon.
That's why I got into martial arts, but we'll talk about that
We'll
later.
talk about that next week. So that's gonna be a fun show, I think.
Absolutely, it might even be a two-parter.
Might be.
So, thank you very much. Fantastic episode. Mr. Bob, the People's Black Belt, signing off. See you later, mac and cheese.
See you later.
All right.